Greetings, viewers, and welcome back to our channel. Prepare yourselves as the whispers we've been sharing, the tale the palace has desperately tried to conceal, has erupted into the open. Tremors of shock are surging across the United Kingdom and reverberating worldwide. Following Buckingham Palace's confirmation of the devastating news surrounding King Charles's long-speculated abdication. After endless months of feverish debate, will he or won't he? The formal declaration has arrived, and it's not merely a hazy pronouncement. They've disclosed the precise schedule for the king's departure from the throne. This revelation has plunged the entire nation into profound astonishment. Within the formidable walls of the palace, emotions are reportedly soaring to perilous heights as this monumental, earth-shaking event looms nearer much sooner than anticipated. What ultimate catalyst compelled Charles to embrace this excruciating, soul-wrenching choice? And how will this upheaval impact Prince William, Princess Catherine, and a queen who battled relentlessly to claim her position? Remain tuned in, hit that subscribe button, for the unfolding events promise to redefine the monarchy irrevocably. The day the crown shuddered. His Majesty has finalized his decision on the timeline for his abdication. Envision those words, uttered with the refined, frigid composure of a Buckingham Palace press room, resonating like a bolt of thunder. For months, conjecture had escalated to a boiling frenzy, saturating newspapers, social media platforms, and hushed barroom chats nationwide. It became a fixation for the populace. But in a heartbeat, those murmurs and speculations solidified into a chilling reality. The palace spokesperson, a figure conditioned to announce births, deaths, and conflicts with unwavering steadiness, conveyed the statement with meticulous, almost agonizing care. Yet beneath that unyielding facade, attendees noted a subtle quiver, a brief hitch in his breathing, a fleeting, tormented glance at his notes. This transcended mere information. It was history materializing live, and it felt profoundly unsettling. Seasoned royal journalists, veterans of covering tragedies like Diana's passing and the Queen's Jubilees, characterized the atmosphere as eerily personal. It resembled not a standard press conference, but a subdued, bloodless upheaval. This wasn't hearsay or a tentative probe of public sentiment. This signified the conclusion, the termination of a reign that spanned 70 years, initially seeming eternal and once established, appearing unshakable. King Charles III, the sovereign who endured the longest wait in British annals to assume the throne, had opted to relinquish it. As the spokesperson concluded, the chamber erupted not into orderly commotion but into disarray. Jaws slackened in disbelief. A gasp echoed from the rear, swiftly drowned by the frantic tapping of keyboards and the aggressive clicks of camera shutters. Reporters dispatched urgent alerts before the speaker departed, hurling inquiries destined to remain unanswered. The royal attendants, stationed along the walls and schooled in centuries of decorum, visibly wrestled to conceal their turmoil. They resembled fragile porcelain figures fracturing before onlookers' eyes. Some stood ashen and rigidly still, lips compressed into pale lines of incredulity. Others blinked furiously, eyes widened in the clash between their allegiance to the crown and the sheer magnitude of the shock. One observer later recounted a sensation as if the palace's very stones were inhaling deeply, steeling themselves for the fallout. Beyond the gates, amid London's characteristically overcast and harsh skies, throngs assembled, drawn by an instinctive foreboding rather than any proclamation. No cheers or celebrations emerged, only an eerie, oppressive quiet, punctuated by whispered queries as individuals checked their devices, turning to unfamiliar faces. Have you heard? Is this real? Is he all right? Could it stem from his health? Rumors about his well-being had been incessant. Perhaps internal family pressures, a courteous yet resolute nudge from the emerging generation? Or had the crown, coveted for decades, simply become an unbearable burden? The palace withheld explanations, offering solely a date, a confidential timeline reportedly established in secret and irrevocably fixed. This lone detail ignited a whirlwind of fresh conjecture. Journalists and historians raced to decode its significance. Was it aligned with a personal milestone, possibly a sorrowful one? Maybe the anniversary of his mother's coronation, symbolizing a handover. Or, as grimmer speculations posited, a deadline imposed by his physicians. What became unmistakably evident was that this wasn't an impulsive verdict. It stemmed from deliberations spanning weeks or months. Senior royals were allegedly briefed mere hours prior via succinct diplomatic calls or aid-delivered messages. The abruptness and irrevocability were staggering. For a monarch famed for deliberation, critics might say hesitation, this represented a move of startling, almost frantic velocity. The disclosure heralded not merely an upcoming abdication, but a transition already underway. The public was merely the final audience. Covert gatherings, classified paperwork, and private, anguished dialogues had laid the groundwork. The announcement merely unveiled a long-active mechanism. The monarchy's grand, timeless apparatus was in motion, and reversal was inconceivable. Yet beneath this polished, terrifying declaration lay a profound narrative, one of overwhelming fatigue, bitter discord, and a deep emotional confrontation. What ultimately drove King Charles III to forsake the role he'd awaited his lifetime to embody? To grasp this, we must venture into the palace's private hallways, where devotion, affection, and heritage clashed in a tempest no royal upbringing could foresee. But perhaps the true tipping point wasn't duty or age. Maybe it was a concealed truth, a hidden secret entombed within the palace's foundations. Continue watching. The crown's ultimate strain commenced subtly. So subtly it might have escaped notice without close observation. A creeping, insidious weariness, extending beyond the demands of public duties. Discreet, murmured consultations with physicians in solemn, hushed settings. Anxious exchanges among senior staff behind closed doors. King Charles III, once the epitome of perseverance and fate, exhibited the unmistakable, heart-rending toll of a crown bestowed too tardily. For over 7 decades, Charles existed in anticipation. Reflect on that. 70 years as the perpetual understudy. His existence, his core self, revolved around a position perpetually out of grasp. He ascended as the most enduring heir in British lore, endlessly honing for the day of ascension. When that coveted instant arrived, following his cherished mother's demise, it wasn't the victory envisioned. It proved a trial, an ordeal. His tenure, symbolically potent, was tragically curtailed, its luster swiftly eclipsed by the relentless, oppressive demands of expectation. The crown, that radiant 1-kilogram emblem of obligation and constancy, grew progressively burdensome. Those nearest to him, the select few admitted into his inner circle, detected the shift instantly. The vitality fueling his fervent addresses on ecology or design began to dim. Post-engagements he withdrew silently, his gait noticeably labored, shoulders bowed under the intangible, millennia-old yoke of tradition. The perpetual red dispatch boxes, the state feasts once savored, the obligatory grins, all morphed into drudgery. Within the palace, indicators proliferated. Medical experts, their expressions grave, shared uneasy glances. Key aides observed his escalating absences from confidential assemblies, his diminishing enthusiasm for the ceaseless ritual of ceremonies. No dramatic breakdowns or public crises occurred, merely the gradual, silent, tormenting depletion of vitality from a man who had poured himself entirely into a role that ceased to reciprocate. To the external masses, he retained his dignified aura, but insiders recognized the reality. The monarchy, that venerable entity, was discreetly, methodically adapting to the inevitable. Gradually, responsibilities shifted. Prince William and Princess Catherine advanced. Their public appearances at significant occasions increased perceptibly. Their functions broadened. Official narratives cited modernization and collective accountability. Yet beneath this artfully constructed rhetoric lay a deliberate, unmistakable orchestration of succession. The younger royals weren't merely assisting. They were practicing. Catherine's demeanor acquired a more regal, queenly polish. William's oratory adopted a fresh, commanding cadence. Each new commitment they embraced wove another strand into an imminent future. They evolved into the prospective rulers, the monarchy in waiting, and the populace adored them for it. Meanwhile, Charles retreated from the epicenter of governance. Sessions formerly extending into the night shortened, often delegated to reliable subordinates. His involvement, previously meticulous and personal, diminished. This wasn't apathy. Insiders attest it was depletion. It was surrender. The individual who had dedicated a lifetime to readiness for service realized that even sovereigns succumb to time's subtle erosion. Confidants described a profound metamorphosis. Diminished preoccupation with heritage, heightened contemplation of mere survival. For the first time, the monarch who perpetually prioritized duty above self posed the most perilous, most subversive query. Where does the crown conclude? And where does the individual commence? The resolution, it appeared, neared with each day. By the juncture when the palace's medical panel articulated their most confidential apprehensions, the choice had already crystallized.